U.S. order to prevent great power aggression and institutional cooperation with the power China, Russia, around no co-challenging system. The dangers to ambition and multiple interlocking threats preparing for wars. That is imminent war risk, nuclear escalation, brokenness, military must struggle. Trajectory must change. Minerals are independently essential to China's warfighting capabilities. With 25, China heavily relies on our use of power, advanced weapons, independent as a producer mineralization, vulnerable to disruption, access, and supply shock, create strategic consequences. Great power war causes extinction, coverage 5. Great power war sees nukes, bioweapons, AWS, nuke tech, access to escalate tensions, leaders fight, and negotiate nukes, we use the famine cause winter, or reducing resilience to reach extinction, war, invent weapons we can't predict. Tension 2 is fishing. Tension in the SES are high, bro 25. China push SES to bring claim coastal ramming a ship, aggressive approach, control any action in the book, GD, China will keep acting. The Philippines keep defending where great power conflict. Fishes the root cause of necessity induces Chinese cooperation, Career 16. Hey, Gunner, 9-line, competition most important aspect, not sovereignty, it is fish. China continues 34% demand, offshore supply, necessitating expansion operation equally important. To others act as a matter of salvation, silver lining fish, option negotiation, terms helping proposal to join development for a political basis, especially necessary for access to fish, reducing extraction, solid 21. If fisheries exploit at sustainable levels, countries will protect fishing and expect to find a competition that improve relations. That spills over with 24. Fish was an opportunity for cooperation, practice, collaboration, fishery foster, trust, to cooperate on other areas, federal, and maintain peace. Otherwise, conflict will draw in Federal 25. Marcos, the deepened defense co-op with the U.S. Washington affirm as armed attack Philippines vessel triggering mutual events. Desire to save face for our competition, political imperative, I would caution. Condition 3 is good in competition with China over mineral tracking. It's the sole reason for Trump's good obsession for 25. Trump wants to stop China from getting Greenland's mineral, given U.S. already operates with the natives blasting Greenland's no oil. That leaves one possibility of minerals, because China is going to charge Trump hoping to undercut China, Greenland mineral, the casualty of Trump's fear of China. He desires China to be pushed aside. The threats are serious and soon selling Vicar 1.5. New urgency for Greenland Venezuela confirmed President Williams back from demands with military people close to Trump and number with intervention will not shy from force over Thailand 2 months. China's Greenland president pivots around reconstruction, affirming the reverse caution solved from Nelson 19. Interest pivots around mineral Chinese investment lets pertain permanently mining large Chinese FTI flow Greenland dependent on development after weird sector capital of interest. Empirics through China drawn on Panama swayed Trump. East 25. BlackRock by ports of Panama Canal from Hong Kong from ownership and give Trump side of Chinese ownership operations assigned China running the canal will not rule out force like that. So Trump concerned about the waterway. Otherwise, accusations of alliances and boldest great powers Mitchell 1-6. Annex including the greatest abundance of Vietnam, NATO dead. What ally would trust US to the same future? Beijing launched unified pushback dissolve against the tension of America foe. New independent island as soft underbelly for the US, China, and Russia are visions. Published 25. And nuclear age wars living great powers act aggressively versus ambition to prevent systematic imperatives as economic simplification, increase events, realism, expect build up. Regional hegemony, exactly what China do, Beijing persistent build up. China asserting itself in economic areas of VRA, leverage linking, investing military pushing to replace the dollar, considering Ram strengthening ties in Western Hemisphere, starting Mano doctrine, Russia, match offensive real lands invasion of Georgia, Ukraine. Now, in another view, the standard spreading extinction is infinite, for value and the process causes billions of violent people deaths, and the risk for outrage independently view the app as research target to prevent extinction means no, it must be outweighed even if you evaluate reps either way. The threats are real. They have to win a specific indict too, or link chain in order to win that it's not. Otherwise, that securitization is good because it's not securitization in the first place.
Okay, I'll send it off. All right, let me know when everyone's good. Let me know.
You turn your audio.
Okay, Bilal, Anthony, are y'all good?
Give me like 2 seconds, sorry.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good now, yeah.
Okay, everyone good? Yeah. Okay, cool. Contention 1 is midterms. Democrats win now, but it's close. Fair 26. Democrats have been wrong. Leadership remains fixated on prices as the president did enrich themselves, terrorize America, and invade other countries. But a good bet to win anyway because the president loudly pursued a divisive and unpopular agenda, corruption, authoritarian overreach, change policy, making Democrats outperform polling in off-year elections. After the win for Trump, SI 25, China loaned billions to secure minerals. Already controls 80% of cobalt, with most mines from Trump's targeted. Limited Chinese influence in critical minerals would be a political bragging point as the U.S. nears the midterms. Deals are temporary and commitment to Evelyn 25 steps allowed Trump to claim economic relief. However, the agreement is timeout concession like China's where the pause expire, setting up a repeat in 2026 ahead of the midterm target rallies based bolstering tough on China, but lack of commitment to sobering. Anti-China policy intersects other fields and sways opinions. Federally 25 polling toward China were made a visible opinion driver in the midterms. Candidates amplify issues most when it intersects with economic concerns. Candidates shocky to be seen as tough as members enter their election cycle. They'll be guided by public opinion. 80% perceive China as a threat. Polling shows the base of tougher China policy. 68% support blocking Chinese land acquisition. 70% are unsatisfied with efforts to secure strategic independence. Democrats block the Golden Dome. Clocks 25. Pentagon and space engineer capable of producing Golden Dome. While Democrats, the Golden Dome may be possible, it might not be politically if they decide by the 26 midterms. The House sits down how the are they to put extra money for Golden Dome. Independently, they saw militarization Jackson 25. Trump disparaged allies. The Democratic Congress can make a difference. If Trump were to try launching military, Congress can step in. They hold the purse on defense spending. Congress can support allies through legislation to approve aid to Ukraine. They can sanction countries that threaten global security. Congress could pass legislation requiring authorization of military strikes, ensuring no impulsive decision leads to conflict. Deployment escalates through preemption. Nominate 25, deploying arms system orbit, its numbers, increase danger, and miscalculate them, undermine confidence in their secretary, coordinated assurance and perception that U.S. can neutralize deterrence, increase incentive to act preemptively, continue to. There's Africa, the Horn of Africa, stable, fragile, and volatile. 25 Houthis, a plus attack confrontation remains unlikely. Regional powers show little appetite for intervention. The whole creating space to resume discussions without coordination. The region will remain vulnerable to competition, on escalation, and disruption of global trade. Extraction creates peacekeeping incentives. Man, 25, the safety of workers' continuity advancements requires strong security. Djibouti was introduced for peacekeeping. The main force China's entry a crucial neighborhood. Beijing is financing secure access to oil and minerals without stability. Investments remain exposed in the foreign countries. Keep Beijing close. China holds economic levers that keep infrastructure functioning. Substitution and emboldens terror circumvents the gap. Saudi 25 loss of land and feels tension. So conflict. Locals benefit from illegal mining through bribery and ownership of operations. Criminal networks destabilize regions where mining restricts Chinese actors on both through local intermediaries. Withdrawal creates unstable power. Mackins Al-Makati 25 rival and powers hasten to claim resources before competitors could. The scramble for Accra assert control over territories. The Gulf states expanded regional activities in the Horn of Africa. Vacuum filling involves competing actors creating unstable dynamics. When one power moves, other actors interpret this as threatening, prompting countermeasures. This can lead to countries and direct intervention. Instability draws in great powers. Bahara and 25. The Red Sea is a crucial choke point. The U.S., Russia, and the EU and Iran, whose military is turning the Red Sea into a battlefield in response to the threat to global trade. The U.S. launches security forces, tension escalated, multiple forces operating in combined states. The risk of miscalculation is high. U.S. presence, Chinese influence, and regional rivalries turn into a conflict. Contention 3 is leverage. China's resource leverage allows competition without escalation. Lu 25. After terrorist, Beijing control realms, vital defense, and clean energy. China seeks an equal place through economic power influence, comparison of economic or military capability. Unlike the AK, which side attack influence depends on our ability to attract allies by maintaining dominance and advantage industry. Beijing will mitigate structural weaknesses. China suffered reversals. Yeah, maintain trajectory. No other government has gone tit for tat with tariffs unscathed, reducing extraction, undercut strategically negotiated choke points. Jing 25 for tariff relief. Beijing wants its export controls, granting a reprieve. China's choke points are proving durable and heavy rare earth elements. China doesn't control the full chain. Foundational patents remain held by Japanese firms. Premier factories depend on imported equipment. China depends on Myanmar for half its heavy supply. Cutting this would reduce supply. China's reserves represent its insurance. Premature depletion would undermine long-term chokehold. The Western racing wheel process and collapse cause violent decline. Beckley 23. In every case over 150 years of peaking powers, leaders calculate for will find out window. Examples are plentiful. Russia abandoned peaceful penetration. Japan and Germany went on genocide rampages. The peaking power can stabilize their trade ban. If the power faces insecure supply, need to use force, whereas the fast-growing China could expand slowly and back down. Sluggish China could react violently. She attached legitimacy to powerful interests, including industrial firms and armed forces. Favor China's strategy because it funnels money. Perception causes diversionary war. AG 25 leaders perceive a fleeting opportunity may launch before their window closes. Compression is perceptual. Leaders act on imperfect information about how they reach trajectory. And Beijing delays fatal. 2025 white paper makes it specific. Beijing can gamble that conflict offers the only way to break through. Compression creates pressure to escalation. Leaders take high-risk action because the downside is already accidental. Rapid striking on Taiwan or an external confrontation rally. Legitimacy cut the. Oh, actually no, that's the most probable extinction. Pact 23. Great power wars, nukes, bioweapons, and new tech threaten extinction. The most worrying possibilities: U.S. and China. They spend the most on militaries and have several characteristic causes of war. The most obvious issue: Taiwan location and industries are valuable for both. It's the conflict over ideals, rep for defending allies, territorial integrity, past injustice, and nukes to lead to extinction through the famine by nuclear winter or reducing resilience enough that something else would.
Okay, are you good for cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about midterms. Where in your evidence says it's close?
The first literally the first part that says Democrats have been wrong, leaders remain fixated on prices, president students enrich themselves, terrorize America, and invade other countries, meaning that obviously Democrats are like people think that Democrats aren't doing enough now, and they said that Democrats outperform polling in off-year elections, so obviously the polling is high. But in the very next line, it says that Democrats.
How much does the app flip the voters?
The federally evidence says policy toward China will remain a visible opinion driver, and candidates amplify issues most when it intersects with economic concerns, even if small issues such as you win that this specific.
Why would Trump be able to claim
Trump would spin it in a good way because Trump would spin it in a good way because it would benefit the U.S.'s economy, their position on the world stage, his tough on China policy, etc.
And Trump can just take credit for it because he wants to?
Yeah, your evidence also says that the U.S. would literally make deals with Africa, which Trump obviously would take credit for. And this Avalon evidence says that Trump has historically done so. It says, quote, steps allowed Trump to claim economic relief. Can I take a question?
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the fish app. Can you, considering that most of China's fish comes from domestic sources such as aquaculture, or they import it from somewhere else? Where does your evidence say that?
Wait, because our evidence, our argument isn't about food insecurity. It's about just Chinese.
Wait, your argument is about cooperation, no? The Greer evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why would China cooperate in the region if they can just get fish from elsewhere?
Well, first of all, because it's definitely not enough. That's why they're fishing there in the first place. Second of
All right,
all,
where does your evidence?
second
say
of
that?
all, our argument doesn't rely on increasing cooperation, just removing the tensions.
Okay,
of
so
the
your
top.
link is just removing fishing
No,
boats.
like I said, it can be both.
Okay, it can be both, but I'm talking about your first link. Point me to a line in your evidence that says that aquaculture or getting imports from elsewhere is insufficient.
Like obviously, it's logical. The reason why they're there in the South China Sea in the first place is
Well,
because they
no,
need
because the
to-
reason they're there in the South China Sea is because it's convenient for them to illegally fish there. That doesn't mean they can't get imports from elsewhere. Obviously, illegal fishing
Okay,
is
like if
cheap,
you're
which
gonna
is why
make this
they-
argument and rebuttal, we can have that debate. But I'm not gonna spend first cross talking
Yeah,
about
sure, that's fine. You can have a question.
it. Okay, let's talk about midterms again. How? Let's see. So, where in your evidence does it say that like okay, who votes for Trump after the AF that wouldn't vote for
Well,
Trump?
it's just people who are on the fence. They see that Trump is tough on China, and they decide,
And
okay, I'll vote for Trump.
why is that key? Who's on the fence?
There's obviously, yes, there may be alternative causes, but our federally evidence indicates that this is a big thing because it intersects with things like economic concerns, the tough on China policy, and has so many, like this specific policy has a lot of implications.
Well, yeah,
And
but
Trump has
obviously
historically taken credit for that. Yes,
people who
other
hate
factors may
Trump
happen,
obviously
but the
won't
various
just like
evidence
randomly
also
vote for
indicates that
Trump.
the midterms are
I'm,
close.
I'm asking, okay, I'm asking like like what percentage of people are on the fence right now?
That's not very possible to predict. I'm not entirely sure, but obviously, considering the fact is that the midterms are close, it means that people are swaying back and forth, especially because the various evidence also says that people don't really like the Democrats that much either because they remain fixated on like bad things.
Okay, that's cross.
Can you switch audio?
Yeah.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let me stand up. I'll have to stand. Okay. Let me send it. Is it? Oh, here it is.
Are you guys sending the doc?
Hello? Yeah? What you say?
I asked if you're sending the doc.
Yes, I am. I'm doing that right now.
Doing anything?
Okay. Putting the speech on. Let me know if y'all get it.
I just got it.
All right. No worries. All right. My word is slow. All right, here we go. It'll just be straight down. I'll assume everyone's good. Just tell me if you're not. Midterms one, redistricting put Republicans in the lead for structural tensions and repugnances which do not matter. Up on 11-15. While Democrats have been celebrating win, they face roadblocks. Mid-decade redistricting narrows some small field competitive seats. New Georgia redrawing in favor of Republicans in Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, Kansas, Louisiana redrawing maps to the box. Democrats out of Freeport turn more redrawing in favor of Republicans from the center. Democrats are not sure. Mid-cycle redistricting risk too high. U.S. holding themselves existential ally proof and nuclear war of China and Russia, but no mega offense. Strategic stability arms race is non in 2025. U.S. missile defense necessary to defend 21st century's current system, designed out to cruise and hypersonic Libya, so notable not the stability. Russia, biggest land border, China, Burke's biggest thing to build up most modernized air and missile defense system, offensive militias, vital threat to U.S. Washington, resource security power, Taiwan missiles, higher than long hypersonic missiles, all get through Iron Dome, defeat this, spiritual allies, South Korea, build them, nuclear weapons, you don't need. The fact that Russia already placing new bills, strategic stability is wrong. We can reinforce not wrong, through average arms race 35. Opponents publish and rumors according to Trump conjuring up their arms and damage to disability this view is dangerous. Chinese and Russia saying that arms race to break out nuclear missile deployments and prevention nuclear space force because America and nuclear force are too weak distractors. Just Americans who blame progress Russia, China, and Russia. Historical record arms race was one set of Russia, China, and China knowing no interest for anything America. Just arms racing done you can racing in 1924. Putin threatened Western countries developing new armaments such as nuclear long-range cruise, nuclear cruise, and the hyperloop missile triber, and then the early system Chinese advanced the Soviet China one course to strike. So the U.S. 2 China's foreign policy tactically no Trump's foreign policy tactically no deployments plus 24. Something Trump deceives Ukraine to take on NATO, but push the world towards cancer. Peace will run. No, Trump, not Trump, a stable Middle East and pressure on Tehran, the area, Abraham, of course, Trump puts allies to contribute more to less strength to the permanent policy in Europe against Moscow. Beijing orbits tough love, and period of Trump will show up demand to spend only strength the NATO second Trump will be the common regard for allies against China, Russia, around NATO, speaks on Africa. One, we were straight during the day. The unions can see the risk of escalation to extremely high interpolitical reference and peak China's mediation fails. Their amendments only says that China wants to prevent conflict, but the part of the convenient left out that fails, we like to perceive neutrality. The assault crossed by the 1AC and 2, we would say the 1AC assault evidence another link. It's a large statement of Chinese spy activity. It says the China provides technology necessary for operation and it works with terrorists to secure resources. They have this for us, quote, criminal networks linked to Chinese money. That means this is all solved by the asset extraction by proxy. It means associated in some way with it. That's the dictionary note. U.S. intervention is comparatively better. Drop on these evidence that African leaders to force better norms and evidence this is true. Quote, no wars linked to China's quote from 1963. Seriously, what are we doing? It also says that new norms have been set for future interventions. And 2, want to see simple yes, because Russia's already involved. Real had to insert that they can't expand post-act. They're bogged down Ukraine. U.S. feeling also more likely that far more resource countries do not want to support Russia post-Ukraine. It's possible. The U.S.'s own chemicals from successful operations or Chinese countries can't sell it. And also also we'll say Russia can't expand the region. Outwards means no draw. Harker 24. Their operation for strategic limits after, of course, ill-prepared equipment to replace Russian counterparts. Russian military political life center on Ukraine. We demonstrates here where Russia refuses to help down on the Assad regime. And we would say that 3, the resolution bans all extraction, not just illegal extraction. China cannot pay illegal groups who mining for them because they want to be mining for China, if not for China in the first place. So China is still doing it. Okay, legitimacy. One, regime stability is coming out, but she cracks down some invading, but increasing overseas focus on Chang's Hotel. China's have always been multi more now response why they're unhappy and surprised because especially Warby's model suffered downturn first 76 20% of corrupt allies many policy overseas per government concerned dominant markets the household China's democrat non-civilized civilization collapse Mexico could fail unhappy people brief for freedom to roomy descents prompt demands part of it is lost loyalty large governments leads to crumbling other short-term measures or she is in 2025 her growth rate down from she each time proving false point later removed from secret knowledge and power on the dominance every significant organization member of the political long-term allies British for she co-constructed false of friends stability but instead of appearing inward she awarded long-term third term CP views on my success she Christopher rise global power and everyone dominant climate is selected with decontextualized observation precision truly jeopardy upstairs clues evidence that she is firmly controlled, which means there's no pressure in the first place. And 3, political pressure are backed down after 25. Alex Trump Republicans urge to shift away from strategic terror. Trump's listing move followed by pushing new Republicans. Republican decrees attempts to shock Republicans and which takes up the unique of tariffs inducing the need for leverage. And 4, economics have no effect on legitimacy, otherwise decline now thumbs, that's 25. Order Chinese people have no say in the problems unlikely to start to be fixed around people frustrated economic support and regime dramatic economic social and China's experienced largely dealt with deep loss living up to the point in this economic pressure all could be really difficult to lose for progress we can play government dollars cause a lot of good cut the card at good new and 5 newsflash internal links need unique idea evidence can see the multiple damning wars like demographic economic decline and investment causes comprehension causes engagement without independently deterrent check back only the app stabilizes it and 6 it was either back to evidence also having caused current decline which means the government is definitely non-unique.
TikTok.
Oh no.
Did you? I don't think they cut anything.
Sorry?
Did you cut anything?
I marked a card, but I didn't cut any cards.
Can you send
Which card did you mark?
The Glassroom card, I marked it.
Can you just send a mark doc?
I marked 3 words.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Which is it? The last 3 words in the last.
The Glassroom card, I marked it at quote good things. So after good things, I didn't read anything else.
Okay, cool. Are we gonna run prep?
Yeah.
We're running prep starting now. Okay, that was 40 seconds. I'll send the doc. It'll start on our case and then their case. Doc is uploaded. It's just called round 2.
Wait, let me download it. Wait,
Okay, if
wait,
nobody
wait.
speaks,
Sorry.
I will assume. I will. Okay.
Wait, Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
Wait, I'm pulling up. Sorry.
hmm
Okay, Connor, are you good?
Mhm.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Okay. If nobody speaks, I will assume everybody is ready. But it'll be again our case and then their case. Okay. First, on midterms, they say redistricting, but our card obviously counts for that because post dates is from literally this year, while theirs is from November of last year. Post date does matter because it means our evidence obviously counts for their information, but at worst, it means uniqueness is a wash, so you vote Menelik because you don't want to guarantee that death happens. They say Golden Dome is good, but they have dropped us about preemptive strikes because even before it gets built, it causes the war. We also did not read in arms racing impact is about preemption. When countries think their second strike capabilities are going away, they don't make more, but rather attack the US to get rid of the Golden Dome before it's built, which was dropped and answers all their defense. They say Trump doesn't deploy, but this takes out their Greenland argument because there's no expansion, but even if we just pass the funding, it triggers our link on Africa. First, they say escalation is high now. This is wrong hard. We did not read them. They have to get off the dock because we have changed the argument, which means that our evidence is much better. And it specifically says they're not going to be escalation in status quo. They say man says the mediation falls, but no, this is the very last line says that China uses economic leverage to stop these conflicts from actually escalating. On the links, they say China can't pay tariffs anymore. They say, but this is incoherent because it's like buying imports versus actual extraction. Obviously, China can buy resources from other places, and extraction must be direct. Bridge 17 will say this after the speech. Resource extraction refers to removal of natural resources from their immediate context, widely interpreted as physical process. And China doesn't extract if it's not the one mining, so it can still import. They said that the US is better. It doesn't happen through because China immediately pays the terrorists. There, it highlighted cards that we didn't read. Not sure what they're doing. We didn't read the G and buy of evidence either. Legitimacy. First, they say it's crumbling now. We'll concede crackdowns. It's not responsive to elites getting mad. They say elites don't care, but they obviously do because they'll lose out on money and power as well, which is a Beckley evidence. Group 3 and 4 thumpers are wrong. Leo explicitly says, quote, comparisons of economic or military capabilities are unlikely to indicate which side is ahead. Leverage matters more because even if China's economy is declining, they can always negotiate better trade deals if they control a country's REM supply. Group all the responses about tariffs and the economy. The Leo argument answers it all above, and it's not about that. It's also about having leverage over all of them. Their case. Oh shoot, I opened the wrong doc. One sec. Okay. First, on Africa, an observation, new back half implications of front half evidence justifies new responses because the spin will be impossible to predict. 2. China uses mineral control to promote peace. Leo 25. China attempting to obtain equal place without having to complete its descent through economic power rather than military conquest. 3 implications. 2 implications. A. China only cuts off U.S. rems as a response to trade war, but meaning it's not permanent. The fact that China's never cut off supply before the trade war proves that it won't actually want to oppose the U.S. B. They'll leverage the rem monopoly to convince other countries not to escalate since war also harms their interests. Countries would have an incentive to comply since rems underpin their economy and militaries. Their own uniqueness contradicts the idea that mines can quickly scale up. It cites all costs like, quote, training thousands of engineers and developing a myriad of technologies. The U.S. will still need the capabilities to operate them, which it simply doesn't have now. China would obviously stop selling to the U.S. post-app because they don't have the supply anymore, means it's a golden window of opportunity for adversaries to escalate, and their all causes actually cut that card. That's number 7. And the Chow card says the export controls have already happened, which definitely should have triggered the deterrence impact because the U.S. literally couldn't get crucial rems for months, cut the rest of the responses on fishing. First, Miller concedes man-made islands and survey vessels cause the impact. Independently, boats are only seemingly fishing boats, but post-aft, China can't hide them as much, which means that their direct power projection to assert its dominance, which is more escalatory, the rehiding is inserted. And shelving disputes empirically fails and guarantees long-term escalation. Independently, there's no draw on Train 25. Shelving disputes and focusing on cooperation carries long-term risk for security. Philippines establish partnerships for shelving disputes, normalize aggressive activities in naval vision to steadily consolidate, strengthen, raising the cost for the U.S. to support Southeast Asian nations. Cut the next card. There, McMurray evidence. Oh, actually, cut that analytic too. If they are right, she cares so much about fish, she wouldn't go to war and would back down. We see escalation since the war would cause militarization that prevents fighting. And want to see Brew makes a couple of key concessions. A, China plans to achieve dominance by 2049, so every action will be paced and measured, doubly proven by the fact that they've been going since 2010s. Actually, cut the rest of those analytics and the rest of the responses on fish. I'll go to Greenland first. First, Trump backs away now. Stokel's 121. Trump backing away from unthinkable brink of board, descending to ally, not to use military forces, seize Greenland. The third of course says that they attempt to create leverage negotiation. Trump proceed military measures from close allies like Rubio and Mays. And China's really in Greenland proves Trump is fearmongering and the app is non-unique. Davies 26. Trump threatened to take Greenland in order to keep the Arctic islands from Beijing. But China is a small player and thus far from the threat. I'll cut the rest of the card and the rest of the responses on Greenland. I'll go back to fish and I will read the war won't escalate. Their Chester evidence says it ruined trade so that US will attempt to negotiate, and their Urbino evidence says that China doesn't use those boats to fish. I'll send marked.
We'll wait for it. Thanks.
Okay. Marked as sent. You good for cross?
Let me pull up the mark, and then I can call it out to prep.
Okay.
What's the mark called? Is it just the same name?
Yeah, I deleted the original.
Okay. Let me pull it up.
Yes, Sam. Uh,
Okay. Connor, you good?
yeah.
Okay. We'll take preps right now. Wait, that was 10 seconds. Y'all hear me?
Yeah. You can have the first question.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the Golden Dome impact. What's Russia's incentive to like nuke the United States and possibly risk its own like survival of all citizens as well?
The biggest
Wait, let me preface by saying something. Like the Golden Dome doesn't mean that doesn't it's not offensive. Like the Golden Dome might makes it sort of like you have defense. It doesn't mean that you are nuking Russia. Like Russia's systems are still fine. So what's the incentive there?
The whole point is that if the U.S. installs this defensive system, there is no mutually assured destruction anymore because other countries are aware that if we have this system, then they can never nuke us, but we can always nuke them first. So they would rather attack us before we have it completely built.
Wait, that's fault.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm aware of that, sure, but that's about capacity, not intent. My question was Russia's baseline intent or China's baseline intent to nuke the United States and start like a global conflagration? Because they know, like, they want to shore up vulnerabilities against future war. They would be causing nuclear war by preemptively nuking. So what's that incentive?
It can also be conventional strikes that escalate. Our argument is just that Russia perceives a threat from the US, which is building the Golden Dome, is allowing them to forever just like attack Russia with no regards to
Okay.
anything because they can't get attacked back. I'll take a question.
Sure.
Let's talk about your answers to what was it, Africa. You've said that like the Horn of Africa is you said that the Horn of Africa is going to escalate now. So when?
Like, well, you only like look at it like a magic ball. Like it's soon.
Look, because your evidence is like not it's from like the evidence that said that you have re-highlighted that we didn't read that says that there's going to be escalation soon is from like a couple months ago. So why hasn't it escalated yet?
I don't know. Like that's like it'll escalate soon. Like just because it has done in the past, it's not precluded from escalating in the future.
But if
Like a
it's been
month, a week,
several months
something
of
like
it's
that.
going to escalate soon, when is it
Next month,
actually?
Alice. Like next month. All right.
And
Like
this is
that's a question. I don't.
what
Like,
evidence?
you knew this would occur if you
Well,
asked me
where
that
does your
question.
evidence say that the
I'll
whole
take.
argument? The question is, where does your evidence say that it will actually escalate soon when we have proven that it has not escalated soon since the evidence was written?
You haven't proven it. You just asserted it hasn't.
Well, we know it hasn't because we've not seen a war in the Horn of Africa.
Okay. Well, my point is, it just because there has been a war does not mean there will not be a war in the future. Like there will be one in the future. Okay. I'll take a quick question. Um, on leverage, you say the Politburo quote loses its money. How?
On leverage, the Politburo loses
Yeah,
money
your
because
response.
it's making money by investing in mining in other regions and
So
creating infrastructure there, which means that they would probably not be able to have that money source of income anymore, and they also lose their power and control over
yeah,
that.
sure, sure. Okay. We've taken 10 seconds so far. We'll resume. That was 2 minutes in total, kind of 10 seconds for. Can you?
Our case, their case. On SCS, we'll concede that there's not going to be escalation and it will cause draw. And now on Greenland, Trump is invading Greenland like Venezuela, driven by fears of Chinese presence, affirming Saul's because presence pivots around national resource extraction. Otherwise, lands of Russia, which important versus China and Russia, great power war cause extinction through famine. Their responses: firstly, Trump's speech isn't definitive and issues veiled threats. Empirics are after Lake 121. Trump's speech was ominous of a phrase for now looms nar. Trump has a tendency to change his mind. Trump is suggested for further military might. And majority Trump issued veiled threat. Yes, say yes, and we'll be appreciative, or say no, and we'll remember we should rule all possibility Trump builds invasion. It's not just rhetoric. Trump needs to make his threats credible by following through. Either way, he has an incentive to do so. He has incentive to do so because he wants to control minerals. That was our holding argument. The second response was called way too early, and even China's a quote small player, they still mind there, which is the cause of U.S. aggression. Now, when first turns case, they launched a different conflict against the U.S. because they know it caused because they know that they would get massive backlash. But the U.S. is independently overstructured. The only reason conflict is decking alliances. That's the cardinal evidence at worst for affirmative probability, which can come first because impacts only matter if they occur. Secondly, our time frame is 2 months before dealing in a time frame from White House insiders over high school or estimates. And time frame takes time for escalation because even if midterms, first of all, midterms will happen way later, but either way, it takes a long time to actually lead to escalation because they have to actually decide to go to war, make the declaration to go to war, and prepare to do so. Africa, their internal link is just their internal link is vague. Obviously, past instability means that there's no brink argument. Now, their case. Yeah, actually, thirdly, scope. America uses alliance to count conflict across literally every continent because they know U.S. intervention will crush their chances of success, whereas there's no only impacts one region. Now, midterms, firstly, they missed some of the Oppenheimer evidence. Democrats cannot win because Republicans will be redistributing in key swing states like Missouri, North Carolina, Ohio. Democrats will get boxed out and Republicans will get more votes to account. This accounts for capacity since it doesn't matter if Democrats get popular if their votes are fragmented. They say their evidence accounts for it, but just a claim without a warrant. If you look at their evidence, it's not do that. But their evidence does not once mention redistricting, and either way, they drop warrants saying Democrats are structurally locked out. If post-stating just does not matter about. Now, secondly, going for the turn of the Golden Dome induces strategic stability by preventing missile attacks and miscalculation to try or die as Russia and China are building up arms strikes now, which not needing to see impact they say it's about preemptive strikes, but adversaries will preemptively strike since wouldn't preemptively strike single baseline intended, but all countries want to prevent nuclear war, since the strike accelerates it. Now it does the calculated for foreign policy stuff does not take out Greenland because it's in the context of other foreign policy incentives, but not about Greenland because Trump uniquely has an intent to do so, which means it would just be rational. Now on Africa, firstly, their man evidence only says that China wants foreign conflict, but their part of the completely left out says it fails because lack of perceived neutrality. They just dropped this and that because even if it's not terminal, it's to significantly mitigate to link. The impact is also dumping by past instability. Like if these strikes in the suit, as they just say that like economic leverage solves. Obviously, if their entire evidence contradicts this, then it means it's inevitable. But either way, if they're right that economic leverage solves, it won't go away post stop because they still have infrastructure deals, which is what the economic leverage we're talking about in the first place is about. And they have not read a link argument saying that they'll pull out infrastructure, which means that they cannot get new calculations for this. Secondly, China is funding conflict right now with arms sales and backing arms groups. They say China is key to stability, but clearly not if they're funding these wars in the first place, which means that only we can solve their costs. I guess back to Wang. Triad extinction nominal unique and the impact so even a 1% versus 17 means Bill Africa's only chance to save humanity. But then again, at best, the extinction short circuits rely on winning 100% versus this side. So any defense means you affirm since would be still a chance of sovereignty.
Wait, can you send the card that you read on Greenland?
Okay.
Okay, we got it. We'll start running prep now. Actually, now. Okay, that was 155. So I think we took 40 seconds earlier, so we have 25 left.
Okay, the order is our case weighing their case. Let me know when everyone's good. Anthony, Bilal, just checking. Are y'all good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. On midterms, we will concede that the Republicans will win anyway, meaning that the Golden Dome solves the teaching either way. On Africa, we'll concede that there's always an incentive to have infrastructure deals, so it takes out the argument. On leverage, I'm not sure why Colin decided not to answer this argument because it was not kicked. China's red monopoly gives them leverage on the world stage to influence events through export controls. However, China mines most rare earth minerals abroad, so affirming cuts off the source of their power. That makes them a peaking power, and the perception that she loses legitimacy causes them to engage in a diversionary war over Taiwan. Nukes are used to win the war or to keep the US out, which escalates due to tension and miscalculation and causes extinction through famine. Alice frontlined all of their responses. We grouped responses and said that none of the responses about tariffs, etc., were responsive because our argument is about Chinese power. You can vote nag on strength of link alone because it was fully conceded and also takes out their probability weight because dropped arguments should start at 100. Look, I'm pretty sure that Brian will get up in first final focus and try to make a lot of smart cross applications. What you need to realize is that if you cannot draw a line from summary to final focus as to where these arguments were in Colin's summary, then you cannot vote for them because obviously these arguments will inevitably be new. On Wang. One is time frame. It was carded in case. AG says perception alone causes China to lash out since she wants to attack before the public and elites figure out he lost leverage. Prefer carded time frames. It's an expert analysis over their high school weighing. Escalation's uniquely fast since China nukes the US while invading to ensure they don't get drawn in, and the US has a huge incentive to intervene for allies. Their argument takes longer because it relies on Trump doing a lot of plans to fight, and deleting a time frame is bad for them because not immediate. But we literally have evidence that says quote delay is existential. So you know our argument is immediate. You also don't know when drawing happens because China has to mobilize forces as well. Time frame comes first because intervening actors can solve their case in the future, and living longer increases battle life. Second, it turns the case. China will use RAM leverage to de-escalate a war since that would harm its interests. The US will be forced to negotiate since they depend on Chinese RAMs for their economy and military, so there is no war. Okay, on their way. First, they say that alliances solve war. This is not responsive because our argument is that China attacks first and then the US having to get drawn in order to solve that war. So obviously, in order to keep alliance credibility, they would have to get drawn in. Then they say there's try or die. There's no try or die because we contested the scenario, so it obviously doesn't matter. And scope weighing doesn't matter. There's no meta weighing off of it. And they've also dropped our case, so it's at 100 on Greenland. On the midterms argument, they read evidence that says Trump is calculated and will not deploy troops or provoke NATO that Alice explicitly said takes out Greenland. This is terminal for them because it's not being contested. Don't give them new reasons why this doesn't apply to their case in final focus because it's way too late for a response implicating Rebel. The only chance that they have to frontline this argument is that, quote, Greenland has unique incentives, but obviously their evidence is their own evidence that they read, by the way, is a lot better on this question. It says that Trump will not want to break down allies and that he inherently knows that it would cause things like a war, so he will not go invade Greenland, but would rather have other measures. You can break the tie on incentives. There's no reason why Greenland alone is key to all of China, but Trump will obviously know that it will kill the alliance and also cause drawing. Second, we also conceded in the card that says Trump will be checked by his closest officials in his administration, like Rubio or Vance, who do not want to invade Greenland, and that all of his rhetoric is just bluster to be used at the negotiation table. Even if Trump wants to invade, Rubio and Vance don't, and they also hold significant political leverage. They cannot authorize attacks for military strikes, which is also in their our card and is terminal defense on their case. Look, there's a drop contention. You can just vote neg right here.
You guys can have first question.
Okay. Good for Grand.
Yeah.
Okay. Like real quick on like leverage. So you're using them in the context of tariff leverage, i.e. things that
No, it's just about it's about leverage over, like sure. Okay.
The reason why
quote unquote, yeah, but the argument we went for is not just about tariffs. Even if tariffs back down, even if like they back down in tariffs, the argument is that when China loses its rare earth minerals leverage, which it also uses in other things, by the way, it can use it to secure deals, trade deals, for example, then that's when they lose all of their power. Like tariffs are just an example. The scenario does not depend on tariffs. The Beckley evidence is also just about peaking powers generally. This was dropped. Can I take a question?
We'll come back to it, sure.
Okay, let's talk about, I guess, the Greenland. Actually, let's talk about the weighing. Explain the alliances thing.
Sorry, what do you mean? Like strong alliances mean that China is deterred from conflict because they know they want to win the fight.
Okay, sure, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, sure. All right.
Wait, what was your response to that?
Wait, call what?
What was the response?
Okay, I guess
Wait, I'll ask a question. What was your response to the alliance argument?
It's about China attacking first because they have to. And
Wait, but
then
like,
the
how does
US
that
having
respond to
to
like
remain a
the US
neutral
having
ally.
strong alliances? Like
Well,
the China
well, the
will
point
not
is
attack
that
first.
China perceives. If anything, this bolsters our link even more because the Beckley evidence says that when China is a peaking power, they must lash out. It's not responsive to our link generally because even if you're right that alliances check most war, that assumes that people would like willingly go to war. But our argument is that she is forced to because the alternative, as per the AG evidence, is quote like because it is literally try or die for she. Can I take a question?
Sure.
I guess let's talk about the let's talk about try or die. We've contested your uniqueness. Why is it try or die?
What do you mean? Like, what? You need to win that the unique station is true, and
Yeah, but well,
yeah.
no, because we've contested reasons as to why it's false.
Wait,
So it's
well,
not
like you
try
can
or die, right?
you can say like and contestation can be anything from like reading a response or saying, oh, they
It's not an
wouldn't.
100.
Which
It's
no,
not
let me finish.
100%.
Contestation does not mean that China is not true. You have to win that contestation. Otherwise, you just claim anything. Quote, China will invade because the sky is purple, which then you can say, quote, takes out try or die, which is obviously ludicrous because there was no basis for the contestation. Then try or die is still true.
Sure, that's fine. I would argue that as long as there's any defense on the uniqueness, it means it isn't at 100%, but that's fine.
Okay, sure.
I guess you can have a question.
Um, on leverage, why is invasion quick? Like, well, why does like
The
attack?
AG evidence says that. Well, the AG evidence
Like they
says.
need attack, sure, but why does it mean like China like she wakes up and just says war now? Like, do you think also like they need to mobilize the
Yeah,
military?
because well, obviously they have the
plan?
capabilities to invade because they have an army, and this time frame weighing wasn't done in your last speech, so it would be too late in first final. But regardless, we would argue that it's fast because she has an incentive to attack as quickly as possible. Quote, leaders act not on perfect information, and quote, delayed is fatal, meaning that obviously she has to gamble on it, and he goes in quickly.
Okay, sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, we have like a minute. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll take it now. Like, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. It'll start on the aft weighing neck. Uh, actually, hold on. Yeah, sure. Actually, wait, I'm sorry. It'll start on the neg first, and then go to the aft wing, like reverse it. I'll be very clear in my signposting. As much as you think they're winning the leverage game because those quotes drop, it is not. Because the Golden Dome being built takes out leverage. The framing issues that they drop, war is inevitable now because China and Russia are building up missile stockpiles and have been disregarding the global political order. I'll read a quote. China showing no interest in anything other than American disarms. So war is coming in either world. That has been conceded, but we both agree the Golden Dome is being established regardless now. This means that war cannot escalate because robust missile defense intercepts strikes before they hit. That is the drop. 2025 evidence, which allows time for de-escalation, but B, China will be deterred from conflict in the first place. They cannot beat out the US in the fight, and she knows war will be suicidal, so accelerates the downfall. Alice will go for this try or die analysis, but she is not stupid anyways, so he knows that his downfall's coming either way. He's going to extend the amount of time he has in his reading and then make his collapse even faster. Look, they never weighed the time between the Golden Dome and anything else. The Golden Dome and the Acceleration Army will still take time. It takes time to draft the war plans to mobilize troops. The Golden Dome is being built regardless, so it takes it out. China's perception is heard. Look, as much as you might like this argument, it's dropped from summary. Frame this as drop terminal fronts for their case with Mel's Lake. This is not a new front, not a new implication. It's called explicitly went for the Golden Dome turn in summary, so you can draw the line for summary to final focus, which preempts all the new stuff they're gonna do. Second final, Greenland. Trump has made Greenland Venezuela by fear the Chinese press firmly solved the pivots around natural resource traction. Otherwise, alliance for bullets or regions Russia had a great power constitution. They say Trump is rational, but drop the scope of it broadly. And this is not a scope of broadly. It does not assume Greenland, which is unique inside the debate. The evidence we cannot possibly count for Greenland. And instead has proven invasions imminent, which outweighs speculation because it's search and threats. Just rhetoric. Drop the Trump needs to make his threats credible by following through. Drop calls analysis, even if some don't like it. The acquiesce, which will align the plan in 2 months. The way. We are going for the term states way, which also takes out their case. Alliance of the term conflict against the U.S. needs to be tons of countries. The independent U.S. overstretched over conflicts, decking alliance and drop probably when the interest only matters they current. So this is a sequence question. The only response to suffering. Someone was told China will start the war. Who are they want to start the war in the first place? They're returned from doing so. They say they're going for try or die, but she this is not in summary because she's a strike on the flow. Either way, seems a risk of winning with strong alliance of press. Look, there are 2 reasons why their case can't happen. Their case is not dropped. Look, the alliance argument takes out. Also, the Golden Dome argument takes out significantly. Just check out on the app. It's at high risk, and their front lines are not. And their front lines are not like their back lines are not responsive.
We'll run our 25 seconds starting now. Okay. It'll start on our case and then Wang and then their case. Is anybody not ready? Cool. Leon told you that they would go for some Hail Mary that is not implicated in the last speech, and that's exactly what they did. You cannot evaluate these new implications in first final focus, or if you do, you have to give us new answers to these new implications. First, their time frame analysis on the Golden Dome fails because the midterms are in 2026, but AG is specifically perceptual, which I'll get to on the extension, which means that this does not apply to our argument. Second, the Wang argument was not in summary, neither was the implication. They did not say it applies to leverage at all in the summary. We have also conceded that Republicans will inevitably win, so that means that war is not inevitable. At worst case scenario, this takes out both of our scenarios because it means that either way we're going to have the Golden Dome, which means that you can just check out on presumption, but that doesn't really matter. If you cannot draw a line from where summary made these arguments to the way final focus implicated, you should cross them off your flow. Extend leverage. China's drone monopoly gives them leverage on the world stage to influence events through export controls. However, China mines most rare minerals abroad, so affirming cuts off the source of their power. That makes them a peaking power because they no longer have the foundation of their dominance, and the perception that she loses legitimacy caused them to engage in a diversionary war over Taiwan. Nukes are used to win the war or keep the US out, which escalates due to tension and miscalculation and causes extinction through famine. You should not have a shadow of a doubt voting on this argument because it is specifically perceptual, which means as soon as you affirm, it causes Xi to do the invasion, but their arguments are much slower about the Golden Dome because that is at the end of 2026, which has never been compared either. But AG is carded in case as perception alone because she wants to attack before the public can at least figure out that he lost leverage. Prefer carded time frames since it's expert analysis over their high school Wang. Escalation is uniquely fast as China nukes the US while invading to ensure they don't get drawn in, and the US has a huge incentive to intervene for allies. Their argument takes longer. It relies on Trump doing a lot of plans to fight, and you don't know when drawing happens either. Trump has been talking about Greenland since he took office, which means you have no idea why it's actually fast, while AG is much better because it's explicit about presumption. Time frame first because living longer means that we can solve their arguments later, and it means that they can't turn our case because if we're all dead, you can't turn our case. On their turns case, China will use REM leverage to de-escalate the war, which means that it would harm their interests. The US would be forced to negotiate since they depend on Chinese rents for their economy and military. On their case, they're just not winning it. They have dropped an explicit line that says even if Trump wanted to invade, Rubio and Vance don't, and they have significant political power. That means that they would block invasion in Congress, so there's no war in their scenario.
Good debate.